Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the start of Automation Days Asia 2024. I'm super excited that the day is finally here, in which we will kickstart the fourth edition of Asia's largest automation conference. My name is Jan-Willem Middelburg, and I am going to be your host today. And together with the team at Cybiant, we have been putting this conference for you together in the last year. Therefore, I'm super happy that the day is finally here, that we actually get started. In the first 10 minutes, I will take you through the program, what you can expect during the next 2 days, how you can select and find the sessions that are of interest, and I will do a brief introduction of the speakers and prizes that you can win throughout the conference. Let's get started. Today's Automation Days conference is going to be hosted in 2 simultaneous tracks. And I will be your host for the first track, and as well as all of the general sessions. In the other track number 2, John Wee Lee, our head of services, will be moderating all of the different sessions. That means that you as a participant have the choice every hour to choose between 2 sessions, and you can switch back and forth between either session itself. Before we get started, I would like everyone to put their hands together for the amazing panel of automation experts and industry speakers that we have managed to volunteer their time to provide sessions for you. And as you can see on the screen, they are literally joining from all over the world in order to bring you the latest and greatest that automation has to offer. Some people are literally presenting in the middle of their night to accommodate the time zones right here. So it's a great honor to work with this team that has been putting so much energy and effort in putting this whole program together. As you will see in your online environment, we have put a 2-track session together for you for the next 2 days. And the way that the program is going to be constructed is that we will have a number of centralized sessions, which will be the morning and afternoon keynote, as well as a centralized session during the lunch panel discussion, in which we will pick the minds of some of the industry experts. Besides the general session, you will need to make a choice every hour to choose between one of the 2 tracks. And in your online environment, which I will show you in a second, you can very easily switch between either 2 of the tracks. Don't worry if you feel that you would like to have attended both tracks, which I fully understand. All of the sessions will be recorded, and you will get a copy of the recording right after the conference when everything has been uploaded. Note from this agenda that we will have 2 different formats of sessions. The 1-hour sessions are deep dives and presentations into a specific topic. But if you are interested in really rolling up your sleeves and participating live, we also have a number of workshops, which are 2-hour sessions and which are practical hands-on sessions in which you can follow along. So make choices on which sessions you would like to attend. And in your online environment, you have the ability to bookmark your sessions, so you will be automatically redirected towards the session of your choice. Very similar, we have the program for day 2 tomorrow. The only main difference is that at the end of day number 2, we will also hand out the coveted Automation Days Asia Awards sessions. So we'll close this year's conference and look at which companies, individuals, or people have made significant contributions towards the automation domain. So 2 days full of content, in-depth sessions, workshops, panel discussions, and much more. And I'm really hoping that you will use these 2 days to sharpen your knowledge, get more experience, and learn some new things around the way in which automation is reshaping the way that we work and the way that we live. This year, we're also introducing some new technology. And the first thing I would like to make everyone familiar about is the official app. So even if you are on the move during the next 2 days, you can still follow along with the conference. You can download the app, which is called Zoho Backstage, which is the portal in which we are hosting this virtual conference. And there you can search for the Automation Days Asia conference, which will allow you to join all of the sessions from your mobile device as well. For those of you who are joining on a laptop or desktop or even an iPad, the platform that you are currently in, Zoho Backstage, looks something like this. I would like to highlight a few of the key features to make sure that you get most out of your conference experience and that you can interact and engage with all of the speakers live during the sessions. One of the primary benefits of joining a conference like this in real life is that you have a unique opportunity to communicate and interact with some of the leading minds within the automation industry. So make use of that because these are chances you don't get every day. Let me give you a very brief tour of the platform itself. On the left-hand side, you will see a button that says Sessions. And here you can browse through all the different sessions that I just showed in the program, and you can bookmark which sessions you would like to attend. If you would like to switch from one session or one track to another, you can also do this by clicking on the Sessions button and browsing back and forth between track 1 and track number 2. On the right-hand side, you will see all of the different ways in which you can interact and engage with the speakers as well as the moderators. Note that there are two main ways in which you can interact, which are the chat and the questions. The chat is an ongoing and running feed in which there is no ordering. Everyone can type messages into the chat, and we strongly encourage you to review this and use this in case you have any quick clarifications. Note that someone from the Cybiant team will be monitoring the chat in all sessions. So if you have quick questions around logistics or the program or anything related to the conference, you can also use the chat to do this. If you have questions for speakers, we strongly encourage you to use the question box. The question box collects questions, and other participants in the conference have the opportunity to upvote or downvote these questions based on relevance. Towards the end of every session, we will be moderating a few of the most popular questions so that our speakers will be able to answer some of the most commonly upvoted questions in general. And last but not least, there is also the opportunity to interact live. At the bottom of your screen, you will see the reactions button. Here you can give the thumbs up, smiley, laugh, sad, depending on what speakers are saying. And if you would like to give instantaneous feedback, please use the reactions button because it's a great way for us to measure what do you think about a particular session itself. At the end of every session, we will also ask you to fill in a very brief survey with 2 very simple questions. And I would strongly like to encourage everyone to do this because we are always trying to look for ways in which we can improve this conference. So let us know what you thought about the topics, the speakers, and what other feedback you would like to give about specific sessions. Good. Since we have a 2-track approach and we've been receiving many questions around the ability to switch between tracks, note that all of the different sessions will be fully recorded. So if you are unable to meet 2 days full time, you will be able to get a copy of the recordings after the conference. After the conference, we will need 1 or 2 days to render and edit all the videos, but they will be shared with everyone once the conference has been finished. And they will also be uploaded on the conference website. They will be available at the YouTube Cybiant channel, as well as the page which you are logging in through right now. Speaking about online interaction, As usual, we have created a number of hashtags and social media channels with which you can engage with us in real time. Please note that all of the recordings will be on the Cybiant YouTube channel, and the program will be announced in live real time on our LinkedIn page. You can also follow us at X, and specifically for this conference, we would appreciate if you would use the hashtags Automation Days Asia 2024 or ADA2024 in short, so that we can monitor and answer all of the online reactions and comments. Towards the end of the conference, if you would like to get a certificate of attendance, we would like to ask everyone who would like to receive a certificate to scan the QR code that you see on the screen and fill out the details with the name you would like to have on your certificate. In the last few years, we got a lot of requests around changing names on the auto-generated certificates. So this year, we have decided to do this a little bit differently. So if you would like to receive a certificate of attendance, then please fill out the form by scanning the QR code that you see on the screen right now, and that will automatically be ensuring that you will receive a certificate of attendance after the conference. So take a quick photo or scan of the QR code in front of you and fill out the form briefly so that we make sure that we have all your details correct. Good, then let's move on to the goodies. Based on the generous donations of our sponsors and partners, we are able again to give away a few prizes during Automation Days Asia 2024. And let me outline a few of the prizes that you can win this year. One of the new things that we're also introducing this year is the engagement leaderboard. And in your online environment, you will see ways in which you can interact with the speakers and with the conference itself. In this online environment, you will see that you can score points. You will get points for reacting, sending messages, staying active throughout the conference, asking questions, uploading your profile photo, etc. And in the online environment, you will see that you can score points, and there is going to be a leaderboard. So the more you engage and the more you interact over the next 2 days, the higher you will get onto the leaderboard. The number one participant that will be the most engaging throughout the whole conference will receive the book from Tim Kortonovinis, who's also going to be a speaker during this conference, which is called Selling Smarter and Not Harder, as well as the Service Automation Foundation e-learning, which is generously made available through the Service Automation Framework Alliance. Participants number 2 and 3 will also get access to the online e-learning course, but unfortunately do not get a copy of the book. So make sure that you interact and engage with the conference, and the more points you score, the higher you will see your name stacked on the leaderboard. We also will have a lucky draw available, and we will do the lucky draw at the end of the conference. And similarly to the prizes before, the lucky draw winner will receive both a hard copy book from Tim, as well as a free service automation e-learning course to deepen your knowledge into service automation best practices. And then we also have a knowledge quiz. Throughout the next few days, in all of the centralized sessions, which will mean the keynotes as well as the panel discussions, we will have a number of quick poll questions to see which, to test your knowledge around the automation domain. Think about it as a bit of a pop quiz where we will ask you to give your ideas and minds around some of the major developments in automation. The winner of this quiz will also again receive a copy of the book as well as an e-learning course, and we will announce the winner during the closing ceremony. Speaking of this quiz, let's do this first question right away. In this conference, we're obviously going to talk a lot around artificial intelligence and the impact that it will have on automation and automation best practices. So that bears the question, in which year was the concept of AI actually introduced? Let me quickly switch to launching the poll right now, and I will ask everyone to take a moment to fill this in. And if it's correct, everyone should be receiving a poll in their screen right now. Was it option 1, 1956, 1978, 2002, or 2013? I see a lot of people are already rigorously voting. So almost half of them are in. I'm going to just give you 5 more seconds to make sure that you win those prizes. Very good. Don't take the opportunity to fill it in into ChatGPT. Good. Let's close the poll in 5 seconds. We have around 40 votes in already. Yes, and I'm going to close the poll right now. And I think everyone can see the results on the screen right now. The right answer is indeed 1956, when artificial intelligence was first introduced by Alan Turing, and the concept was first discussed in one of his famous papers. Thanks everyone for filling in this question. And with that, I'd like to conclude our introduction around the conference. I hope that you have a good understanding of what you can expect, how you can engage, and what the program has in store for you. And that brings me to the moment where I can start to kick off the conference with the first keynote. And I'm super excited to be hosting the opening keynote today. And for this year's conference, I've selected a topic that I think is going to be of a lot of interest to everyone. And that is how artificial intelligence and automation will work in practice. So for the ones who are just joining, my name is Jan-Willem Middelburg. I'm the Managing Director at Cybiant. And today I have the great pleasure to present the opening keynote and share some of the thoughts around AI and automation in practice. And what I've done for today's opening session is I'd like you to really open your mind around the possibilities that new technology bring together with the power of automation. So what we are going to talk about in this first session is whether, first and foremost, there is still a future for RPA a few years from now. So let's say that we're in 2030. Are we still then talking about RPA, or is something new actually coming? And then what I thought would be a very interesting discussion for today is to show with your own eyes and show some actual use cases that exist in which the power of AI is combined with automation best practices. And I will show you some, I would say, interesting, or you could say scary examples around the way in which these two technologies can be combined in order to leverage AI at scale. Then in order to make sure that you can use that in an organization, the big question is always how. It's easy to say that you need to embed AI, and I think a lot of people that are joining today will have taken their first steps within that domain. But doing that on your own as a hobby project is different than doing that within an enterprise context. So in this session, I will also introduce some key best practices and introduce the intelligent automation operating model, a way in which you in larger organizations can organize to leverage these technologies and capabilities in a responsible and controlled manner. And that's really a critical aspect to take into consideration. And in the last segment for this, I will dive into some of the practical aspects and how you can organize for automation in the enterprise. In the last few minutes, we will do a bit of Q&A to see if there are any questions that people would like to have answered. Speaking about Q&A, if you would like to see your questions answered towards the end of the session, By all means, feel free to ask the questions in the Q&A box, and everyone who finds that an interesting question can upvote those questions up or down. Good, let's get started. And I'm going to get started with a little bit of an introduction of AI and automation and dive deeper in what you need to know about these particular topics. But first things first, what you might have noticed when you started to register for this conference is that every year we select a specific theme to indicate some of the year's most recent developments. And the theme that we have chosen for this year is Automate to Elevate. And I first would like to start with giving a bit of background around why we have chosen this theme. Obviously, automation is a key aspect of our conference. It's the most focal point of knowledge that we're trying to discuss during this conference. So I don't think it's a big surprise that automation is the driving force behind the conference. But the reason that we chose the word to elevate is to start thinking about the possibilities that AI can bring in order to push companies towards higher levels. And throughout this conference, you will see this speak a number of times. Because if you are using automation technologies combined with AI, you will get towards situations in which provide you a unique opportunity. And whether that's going to be in business in order to deliver products faster or better, or doing marketing in a more efficient way, or whether you are a government and would like to leverage automation technologies in order to do better infrastructure planning, take better care of citizens, or for sustainability purposes. Those are the goals that you're trying to do. And what I will show you in this opening keynote is that the technologies with which you are able to elevate your organization are already there. A lot of the machine learning AI algorithms that are readily available by now, everyone can start to leverage. But it is a question of organization. How do you use those technologies in order to get a competitive advantage? And that analogy is exactly automate to elevate, because having automation technologies in the first place is nice, but you need to think about how you can utilize those technologies in order to do things faster, better, or more effectively than anybody else. And if there's one thing I'd like you to take away from this year's conference is thinking about how those technologies can elevate your organization. And what I've done in this session is I've identified some common use cases that you can already start to think about, which I'm quite sure not a lot of you will have in place already. So it's a bit of inspiration as well. So think about automate to elevate. And on the right-hand side here, I have generated a picture using AI tools that kind of displays the purpose of this conference. Let the robots do the work that's necessary to be done in order to elevate your business further. And up the top of the mountain, you will see the person that is controlling the robots. And if you are using them in a wise and sustainable manner, you can really leverage automation capabilities to elevate yourself and elevate everyone in your organization. So I hope you will appreciate this and take this theme to heart in the next 2 days. Good, so that's a little bit of background, and I've been using this mountain for a lot of the slides that you will see coming. And I'd like you to really think about what are the key areas in which you can do this. As everyone knows, automation is allowing businesses to work faster, cheaper, and more accurately. And in the last 3 years of conferences, we have seen case studies and use cases of organizations that made significant steps in order to work together with robots in order to make sure that a lot of the daily work is done. And common use cases that we have seen in previous editions and which are very familiar within the automation domains are things like invoice processing, data transfer, making sure that you are meeting specific reporting objectives, filing, and regulatory requirements. All of these are existing use cases for which there are proven use cases for RPA. And I think if you ask yourself whether that's something new, the answer is no. That technology has been around for quite some years. And even though a lot of companies are still on this journey, what I'm going to do today is showcase a little bit more in depth around how you can leverage the latest and greatest in technology in order to elevate that one level higher. And what we're going to be doing specifically is looking at embedding artificial intelligence in RPA. And from my experience, and I am in this automation domain in some of the larger companies around the globe, we see that this is still in very first steps. And again, what I've done for this conference is that I've generated these pictures with AI tools, DALL-E in this particular case. And we're going to specifically talk about how you can use AI technology in combination with automation technology. And that's something different because most organizations are in an automation journey, or they have started using some of their AI tools, but typically they are separate streams and they are different. AI is typically more within the data science team, RPA is typically more within automation teams. But what I'm going to show today is how you can combine these technologies in order to not just use robots to do repetitive work, but to leverage the capabilities of robots in order to do work really smart and clever. I'm going to be illustrating that with a few use cases. Now, I've taken, in preparation for today's session, I had a quick look at what are the key topics that we talked about last year. And during Automation Days 2023, which was exactly 1 year ago, we talked a lot about the rise of generative AI. And I've only copied one slide from last year's session, which is this one, is just to make everyone familiar again with how rapid the adoption of artificial intelligence has been and how fast this is changing the way that organizations are actually working. And during last year's conference, I showed you the picture that you see here on the left, which is coming from the Asia School of Business, and shows you the amount of parameters that we are working with in order to make these specific NLP trained models. And the reason I'm showing you this is to make you familiar that the language models that are being used today, and this is just GPT-3, GPT-4 is even further, is not just a little bit more parameters. We are talking about a factor 10 times more data in order to make these different kinds of predictions. And the only way that that is possible is by using a tremendously large and significant amount of data. And what you might or might not know that the language models that most of us are using in our daily lives, think about ChatGPT, are trained on massive collections of publicly available data. And most commonly, this is coming from Common Crawl, which is an organization that crawls the internet and extracts articles and data from the web. And this is being fed into the model to make sure that there is a massive amount of information available upon which these large language models work. So just would like to show you this particular context to, again, make you familiar around the fact that this is relatively new. And last year during the conference, when we started to talk about generative AI for the first time during Automation Days, this was a new thing. And in just 1 year's time, you see that the adoption has been quite rapidly. And to illustrate this a little bit in detail, I thought it would be good to pull some more recent data to kind of give you already an idea around how much people are actually using generative AI and these kinds of solutions in their daily lives. And the research that you're seeing here on the screen is coming from Salesforce research. And in that short period of time, you can see that around 65% of AI users are in the millennial or Gen Z generation, of which 72% are working in actual full-time jobs. And 6 out of 10 are already in the belief that they are on their way to mastering this technology. In addition, 70% report using this technology and trust their decisions based on the answers that they see coming from generative AI tools. And that's an important thing to realize, because it means that a lot of decision making that is done in organizations on a day-to-day basis is coming from these models. And therefore, it's important to understand how they work and also whether we can actually trust their predictions. I'm going to show you with some use cases on some interesting ways in which organizations are using that today. And that brings me towards what I'd like to refer as the intelligent automation paradox. What I mean with that is, let's put 2 important concepts together. What we've seen so far is that almost everyone these days is convinced of the power of artificial intelligence. And in order to utilize that, most people use AI tools on almost a daily basis. Most people in working organizations now use large language models frequently, and multiple times per day or per week, and consider themselves active users. But here is the funny paradox in that part. 99% of people still write their queries in large language models. Think about Bard or ChatGPT or Copilot. But subsequently, the activity that they do is that they still copy paste the output of those AI tools manually. So I think if you think deeply for yourself whether you are in that category, I'm quite sure that the majority of you are. You type something into that specific tool, but then the next activity that you do is that you copy the output and then transfer that towards a different application. Could be an email, could be a document, could be a set of slides, could be any other application in which you would like to showcase the output. And again, don't worry if you feel that you're the only one, because 99% of people use the copy-paste approach in order to leverage the outputs of generative AI models. And that leads towards an interesting paradox, because we are trying to use this really, really smart technology, the technology that is providing us with answers that we're actually looking for. But in reality, it brings us one step back, because in order to actually use it, we are going back again towards copy pasting instead of using more automated or more smart solutions. And that's something I really would like you to think about, because what if there was a way in which you could leverage these AI tools, but then automatically? And instead of copying, pasting it into your own applications, you would have the opportunity to do that at scale. And that brings me towards what I like to refer to as the intelligent automation formula. Because if you find a way to leverage the capabilities of AI and the outputs that everyone is using on a day-to-day basis, but then do that automatically and do that at a specific in specific workflows using the technology from RPA, that's when we get towards a situation which we call automation at scale. And it means that instead of just creating one personalized message and then copy and pasting that into an email and sending it out, it enables you to use those outputs and send it to tens or hundreds or 10,000s of people, all in their own unique way. And what we've been seeing in the last year is that this drive towards intelligent automation and the ability to use this at a particular skill is changing businesses in a way we've never seen before. And that is what it means to start using intelligent automation. And what I will show you today in the next segment is what are some of the practical use cases that you can think about. How can you combine AI models with RPA, the efficiency and the massive skill of RPA in order to build solutions that are really transforming businesses towards the future? And that's what I'm going to be talking about in the second part of my discussion. So now that you have a little bit of the background around how to use AI in the context of automation, the next thing that I'm going to do is show you some common use cases. And again, these are more future-looking use cases of things you could start with right after this course and how you can use this in real life. And in order to do that, I always like to show a very quick pyramid. And this kind of shows you the difference between what most organizations are doing today, which is robotic process automation, and shows the difference with intelligent automations, and last but not least, ways in which you could use predictive robots that not only will take the best possible course of action, but make things happen. So most organizations today are using and leveraging common automation technologies. So think about use cases that I talked about earlier, things like invoice processing, transfer of data between different systems, moving Excel sheets around or moving it from different files to folders. They might be using it to create specific documentation or regulatory requirements. These are the common use cases that we see in RPA. And to be fair, 95% of the projects that are starting with RPA are specifically on this domain, because a lot of organizations still do a lot of manual work, and starting with getting rid of the repetitive work first makes perfect sense. So most companies have RPA today, but what they are looking for is intelligent automation. And what I have done for today is I'm going to show you three main use cases. I'm going to talk about how do you establish dynamic pricing models. We're going to talk about personalized marketing as well as automated case management. And what these use cases have in common is that they also use RPA, but then start to embed AI models in order to do this at scale. And you will see some of the results there that are kind of scary if you think about that. The next step is to start using robots that not only leverage those AI models, but that when they start to create it. And that's when we are starting to move to bots that can really predict the future. I've kept that out of scope for today because moving from RPA towards intelligent automation for most organizations is already quite a big step to take. And I think that that's going to be the topic that is of interest for most of you. So what I've done is I've listed some actual use cases that we've been working on, and these things are live in practice today. The reason I'm showing you this is to kind of get you and give you an understanding around how far we are already with AI technology at scale in order to make better and faster decisions. The first use case I would like to share with you is dynamic pricing. So in most organizations, prices are set on a periodic basis. Could be weekly, monthly, depending on market conditions, but also around what competitors are doing. And the interesting part around this use case is that it leverages the day-to-day capabilities of AI or of RPA with some of the smarter technologies from AI. So this is for a particular retail company. And what this company did is that they developed a robot that every day looks at the websites of their top 5 competitors, and they save the prices for products into a specific spreadsheet, or in this case, a specific database. And for those of you who have a bit of automation background already, you might know that this is quite a simple operation from a RPA perspective. You would just need to build a screen scraper, and that allows you to go over publicly available websites and extract prices from particular products and save them very easily into whatever format you like. Now, as soon as you have those prices, you can then ask the robot to do a calculation. And with a machine learning algorithm, you can compare the history of prices against the prices that competitors are offering today, and automatically make a prediction what an optimal price point would be given the prices of competitors. And as soon as you have that price, you can then, as a last step, instruct the robot to automatically update those prices. And in this particular use case, the robot updates the prices and publishes the new prices to the website every day at 6 a.m. And the reason that this is interesting is because before most people start to go on work or visit a particular website, those prices have been updated. And this is a use case which a lot of organizations don't have yet. They still do this either manually or they do it on best effort. But what you see with using these kinds of new technologies is that you are able to get towards a completely different strategy in how you can maximize business performance. And the question is this difficult? Well, it's not. On average, it takes around 3 months to develop a dynamic pricing model. And that means that as soon as those areas have been created, companies can do this every day completely automatically without any interference. And if you are in a company that needs to use dynamic pricing, you can immediately see that this is going to be have a massive impact on the way that companies can operate. So I hope that that's a good way in which you start to see the power of AI combined with RPA technology. I also thought it would be good to use a personalized marketing example because I've been confronted with this myself. And another kind of use case that you could think about is how could we, instead of doing these regular mail shots to everyone, how could we change this to a way in which it is personalized? And with this particular use case, the robot extracts your profile from a CRM database in which a company saves information about you, on which you've put in your information. And then by leveraging a large language model, it can create a personalized message. And again, this is different from your marketing email shots in which it just says your name and then a general message. What you could do with a large language model is create a personalized message, which is based on your CRM profile and in a tone of voice that matches your recipient. And then instead of asking somebody to schedule that into a mailbox, you can use an email bot to send those messages at your preferred time based on the information that is in the CRM and at which you are most likely to get it at your phone. And the reason I thought that this would be an interesting example is because this was something that I was confronted with myself. So this is a message I received recently. I sometimes play golf in the weekend, and you can see the golf balls right here. And then a few days later, I received this message on the right-hand side. And my birthday is coming up in the next month. And I received this message that says, we notice your birthday is coming up. We also noticed that you were on a golf course. So maybe it's time to upgrade your driver and make sure that you get new equipment to help you do a better job. And I'd like to use this as an example because the technology that is available today in order to do that is already there. Most organizations haven't used it yet, but if you think about the possibilities that there are there by using large language models at scale and combining that with RPA, you're starting to get towards situations which are able to radically do things differently than the way that businesses are doing it today. And finally, a last, a little bit more complicated example is around automated customer service. So in this particular use case, there is an organization that has a customer service tool. In this case, they're using ServiceNow. And what the robot does every day is run through all of the tickets that are still outstanding. And then based on the person that filed the ticket, for which there's a profile in the CRM tool, the large language model creates personalized message around the ticket information. And the interesting part right here is that this is for a large company that operates in multiple countries. And based on your profile, it sends the message in different languages. So the large language model here does auto translation. And if you have filed a ticket and you happen to live, let's say, in China, you get the Chinese reply. If you live in Brazil, you get it in Portuguese. And if you live in the UK, you get it in English. So what this robot is doing is utilizing ticket conversations and updates and resolutions in order to communicate with people into their own preferred language, whereas the source data is all in English. And again, this is a very interesting way in which you could leverage AI tools and robots in order to do this kind of work at scale. And in this final case study, the robot then automatically makes a payment in order to resolve a specific case. And this is for an insurance company. So what I'm hoping that you start to see is that the technology of using these AI tools within an RPA environment are already there. It's just a matter of leveraging it. And what I've also hoped that I showed you is that this is not difficult. Most of these development times will take just a few months, but it will have a significantly massive impact on organizations. So I hope that kind of inspires you to start thinking about AI in a slightly different way. Now I'm going to my last part of the presentation, and that is the question about how. Because I hope that by now you are convinced that this is something that you should be looking into, and that in the next 2 days, you're going to learn more about these intelligent automation solutions. But the question is, how do you do that in an environment that is conducive to this, but also in which you could do this in a safe and reliable way? Because moving from towards intelligent AI-driven automation really sounds easier than it is. And the key areas that you would need to address are things like skills, using the right kinds of technologies, but also the ethical aspects on how can we do this within the constraints of legal and regulatory requirements, governance processes that we need to have in place, as well as controlling what a robot sends out to whom. So by all means, the use cases that I just showed you are not an easy way in order to get started. And you don't just do this on a Friday afternoon. So what I would recommend to look into, and this is a model that we've been using for a lot of organizations, is the establishment of a service automation framework center of excellence. Because if you would like to do this and like to use AI and RPA at scale, you need to really think about a way in which you can govern this. And what you see in the model on this slide, which is coming from the service automation framework, is to establish a structure, and that's why it's called a framework, of a center of excellence. And what that does is combines an automation center of excellence, which is typically kept in-house, which looks at strategy, governance, and operating models, with the delivery of services, which you can either do yourself or outsource to a third-party provider, which looks at monitoring control, the service delivery part, as well as RPA and automation services. And by establishing a center of excellence approach, you can start to develop a number of areas in which you could build on these particular technologies. Now, in this conference, we're going to be listening to a number of people who are actually working in a center of excellence. So I strongly encourage you to look at their sessions, and they will further explain in details the way that they've structured this and how they've set this up. So I'm getting towards the end of my time. So 5 key areas that you could take away in order to automate, to elevate, is establishing that center of excellence. This makes it a practical and pragmatic approach in which you can start using these technologies in a way that fits an enterprise's strategy, but also conforms to regulatory and governance requirements. And there's 5 key tips that I'd like you to take away from this. Is start with developing an automation strategy right from the start. If you found those use cases that I talked about interesting, think about how you could leverage automation technology and AI in order to bring these kinds of use cases to light. Don't just start developing, start with a strategy first. Because if you have that strategy, you can also establish a proper governance framework. Some of the use cases that I just showed you, you might ask yourself whether that's good to do from an ethical point of view, or how do you deal with personal identifiable data, especially for European companies. So thinking about governance right from the start and setting up a proper governance framework is critical to making this successful. And that also means that needs to be then embedded, because having good governance rules and privacy and security policies is one thing, but you also then need to develop them, develop your automations in such a way that you can adhere to that. So building an operating model across an organization and that everyone understands is very crucial in that part. And then one other key aspect that we've learned is separate automation services from IT services, because those are 2 different domains. And automation services really help you to drive the delivery of automated services in the long run. And last but not least, set a few monitoring and control procedures so that you as an organization are always in control of what happens by whom and by which particular robot. And that's as far as I would like to go today. I hope that this first keynote inspired you to think a little bit around the theme of this conference, and explains to you why we've chose the theme Automate to Elevate. So to summarize what I've been talking about in the last hour, I'd like you to really see that the worlds of AI and automation are converging to what we refer to as intelligent automation. But even though that technology is there, we are still in this automation paradox. Most of us are using AI tools in a manual and non-automated manner. And in order to really start utilizing the power of AI, you need to combine it with the power of automation technology. And that means that you could start leveraging AI at a massive scale. I also hope that you think about some of the use cases that I've presented and realize that this can have a significant impact on an organization and in the way that it operates, and that as a result, you will need to organize for that. And we strongly always recommend setting up a center of excellence or setting up a service automation framework so that you have that control in your own hands. And with that, I would like to thank you for joining me today. We still have time for 2 quick questions. So let me go towards the screen before we go towards the next session. Good. First question is, I got a question from, let me put it on the screen. So first question is from Alexander. Hi, Jan-Willem. I got a question concerning the development of AI. You were talking about how do you see AI-driven automation evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? and what your businesses do to prepare for that now. Well, I hope that I kind of answered that question throughout the presentation. AI in RPA is coming. You're either going to be an organization who's going to leverage that, or you're going to start seeing that it's going to be coming your way. So my main advice is prepare and start learning about these use cases and technologies, and also start utilizing this towards the future. Because this is coming, so you better prepare for that. And think about the frameworks that I mentioned. Those are critical ways in which you can start from an enterprise perspective to prepare your organization. Good. I hope that answers your question. And I think that also I get a note that we're out of time and the next speakers are waiting already. So let me briefly introduce to that. So I've been going through the time a little bit fast. So in the next 5 minutes, we are already going to move towards our second set of speakers. And with me in track 1, I will have Samuel Lopez, who's the CEO of Robotic Nation. And he's going to talk about moving from legacy to innovation, automating cities and countries for a smarter future. So that's going to be a very interesting session. And then in track 2, we have Shervin, who is the practice head at digital transformation at eGuardian. And he is going to start our first workshop, which is a longer duration session. And he's going to talk about mastering intelligent automation. So the topic that I also started to introduce right now, and how to build a scalable and return on investment driven strategy with organizational impact. So it's going to be a tough choice. So either the 1 hour session or the 2 hour workshop, and you can switch between the sessions right there. With that, I would like to thank everyone for joining this kickoff of Automation Days Asia. I hope you will have a lot of fun and learn a lot of new things in the next 2 days, and think about the ways in which automation and AI are changing the way that we operate. Thanks, everyone, and I will see you back in the next few minutes for the next session.